canned on Monday night.
Well, welcome into the Saints Insider Podcast, brought to you by Bank Plus. Zach Ewing with Rod Walker, Luke Johnson, and Jeff Duncan, who is just crowing about the Louisville Cardinals. So much bragging to do that it melted right into the open of the show. I couldn't believe it.
It's not going to stop either. Yeah. It's going to be on at least until we lose to Pitt this week.
You know, today is Friday, October the 13th, so bad things are bound to happen. Maybe to Louisville, maybe to the Saints. We don't know. Hopefully not to the Saints for the sake of their fans. But we can tell you about a good thing. That's Bank Plus. Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. Their banking decisions are actually made here in New Orleans by local bankers who know the community and take the time to know you. From small business to big business, home loans to bank anywhere technology, Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. Learn more at bankplus.net.
A plus transition, by the way.
Thank you. I was going to give you the opportunity as well. LSU beat Mizzou. You didn't want to talk about it before the game because you were worried.
Yeah. No, I like way better to just like rub your nose in it afterwards. So I just want to let you know that LSU was letting you have a little bit of fun by letting you stay in the game early. We were just toying with you. That was the whole point.
I think that if the SEC let the two second-place teams from each division meet, we might see LSU again. Could happen. I don't think it'll happen in Atlanta, though.
No, probably not.
So,
and poor me, I get left out of the college football conversations.
Well, there's no Western Michigan grads here to brag against. So, Mississippi State will. You guys have a one game schedule. Maybe beat Ole Miss and everything's okay.
That's it.
So, and Tulane plays tonight. We'll just finish the college football talk, the portion of the program right now. Tulane with its probably like biggest remaining game, right, against Memphis.
Yeah, could be a stumbling block. Norm's sweating it out already. Worried about the game.
Norm Powell behind the glass there as a former Tulane player, and yeah, big game in Memphis tonight. So then in Houston on Sunday, the Saints play the Texans, and the ALCS starts. It's a big sports weekend in Houston. So we will be there, and the Saints will look to go to 4-2, guys. It's so funny to me to kind of follow the trajectory of this team, because people have alternated between thinking that they're a Super Bowl contender and thinking that the sky is falling. And here they are at 3-2 after 5 games, pretty much where everybody expected them to be.
Yeah. But, again, I think we keep coming back to this point that, like, I think a lot is riding on this game because, for the last 2 weeks, we've seen the highs and the lows. It's just like I think everybody just kind of wants to see who are they. So this is really going to be, I think, their biggest test so far, at least defensively. Houston's got a really good offense. I think their coordinator does some really smart things. Bobby Slowick. You see these guys kind of branching off of that Kyle Shanahan tree, and they're having a lot of early success. So can this defense keep up against probably the best offense they've seen so far? Can this offense actually stack another good game after a pretty good performance in New England? I think we'll learn a lot about the Saints team this weekend.
It seems like we're saying that every week, but we just don't know who this team is yet. And this is another test, like Luke said. I think this is the best offense they've faced this season, I would say.
Well, and like to your point, this is a team in the middle of the pack in the NFL. I think everybody sort of agrees on that. If you look at all these power rankings, I compile them every Tuesday on NOLA.com, and everybody has them between like 14 and 19. I mean, that's where they are. They're the middle of the pack. And so you would not think they'd play a lot of games that ended in blowouts. Now they have. They lost one to Tampa Bay. They beat New England. But I think we get back on like the close game train here. And that's why every game does feel important, because it feels like it could go either way.
I don't think so. I think the Saints are going to roll this team. Of course, I thought they were going to roll the Bucs, and I was completely wrong. But no, I just think they're better than Houston in all phases. And I think they found the formula this past week. I will say I watched the game again this morning. It's like the third time. And you know how we talked last year about how the gridiron gods were working against the Saints. They had like a lot of bad breaks. They only ended up with a certain amount of takeaways, and that was going to regress back to the positive. That's what happened in that game. If you watch the game again, they fumble a pitch that goes right to Cam Jordan. He just happens to be the one guy there. It goes right to him. The interception by Pete Werner, a hustle play by Pete Werner, run into the ball. But, again, the ball bounces off an arm and goes right to him. So, things are happening that's not going to happen every week. It's going to be a little tougher this week. That snowballed on New England. If they played that game again, it wouldn't be as lopsided as it was. So, having said that, though, I think the attention to detail the Saints are showing, and I think the intensity and focus that was needed in that game should carry over. And if it does, then I think they'll take care of business.
We should get Jeff props for watching that game 3 times.
That is, he works hard if he's going to do that.
We should also, just after the show is done, make sure we clip out like the 2-second thing where Jeff said, "I was wrong." Just play it over and over again.
Just let it become a meme.
Yeah, just really just bring his ego way down.
It happens once about every Haley's Comet sighting.
Okay, well, you astronomers out there, it's Friday the 13th, and Jeff Duncan admitted he was wrong. So and it's like October. We're bound for something weird.
Well, there's like a lunar eclipse tomorrow, in Texas.
We got to like bring spiritual protection with us or something on this trip. Quick look at the betting line from Caesar Sportsbook. It's Texans -1.5. The total is 42.5 as of this morning. It's amazing the Saints keep playing these games in the 30s, and they still get totals in the 40s. Sooner or later, I mean, like I kind of feel that though, guys. I could see this game being turned into a little bit of a shootout, at least by Saints standards.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you look at this, especially this Texans offense. I mean, they've been pretty good, and if they're able to score some points on this Saints defense, then I mean, we could definitely see us get into the 40s. I know last week you had the Tyrann Mathieu interception, and we kind of talked about how, defensive touchdowns or special teams touchdowns can, help get over that total.
And they still didn't last week. Still only got to 34. So I don't know. Let's dive into the game. Saints Insider Podcast is brought to you by Bank Plus, and a reminder, you can sign up for our newsletter at NOLA.com/Saints Insider. Join over 30,000 subscribers. It's free. You get all of our news and all of our links and things every morning in your email inbox. You can also subscribe to the Saints on NOLA.com YouTube channel. If you missed this at the end of Wednesday's show, we are going to move the show purely to that channel going forward starting next week. So it won't be on the regular NOLA.com channel, just on the Saints on NOLA.com channel. So make sure you're subscribed and have notifications for that. And with that said, we're going to dive into this game. We'll start, as we always do, Saints offense against Texans defense. And I think the place to start there is with the offensive line, guys. I mean, there's all sorts of reports coming out. Jeff, you've heard Trevor Penning could get benched. That's not confirmed. But it does look like the Saints may be going back to what their offensive line was for the first half of last year.
Yeah, look, and if that does indeed happen, I think it's very surprising that they would make that move so early in Trevor Penning's career. I mean, this is a first-round draft pick, obviously invested a lot in him. And to be making this move, I think, is a little out of character for the staff. There must be a reason that they feel like they're better off with James Hurst at left tackle. That's not really James Hurst's best position either. So I think it's a little bit of a gamble here by the coaching staff. I don't think it was one thing that led to this. I think it's probably more of accumulation, a body of work that they see. And I will give them credit, though. If they are making a change like this, it shows they're not resting on their laurels. Even if they did win their best performance of the year, they're seeing something that says, yeah, that worked in that game, but it's not going to be good enough in the future. And so we'll see if it pays off for them. But I do think they're rolling the dice here. And I think there's a little bit of concern that it could destroy some of the confidence that Trevor Penning has so early in his career to be benched when actually I thought overall the offensive line was playing about as well as it has all season.
Yeah, you bring up a couple of good points, and one is Trevor Penning's psyche. But let's start with the fact that it almost seems counterintuitive, Luke. Like if you look at PFF grades, I mean, we're not coaches. We're not going to sit here and pretend like we know as much as the Saints coaching staff does. But if you just from our layman's eyes, like it looked like he was playing better, certainly than the first couple of weeks. And so it's a little surprising to see that this is the time they chose to make the move.
Yeah, but if they decide
if they go ahead and decide to do it, yeah,
and I agree with that. And I said earlier on this week's show on Wednesday that I thought he was coming off a pretty good game, and the Saints only gave up 3 pressures last week to New England. Granted, against a New England team that was playing without its best pass rusher, Matthew Judon, but the whole thing with Trevor Penning is that he needs reps. He needs reps. He needs reps. He needs time. That was probably the biggest thing holding back his development last year. Was he only played in 6 games. He only started one of them, and he's going up. He's making the jump from Northern Iowa to the NFL. There's going to be some growing pains. We got to live with that. it's a little jarring if you hear all that for a better part of 2 years, a year and a half now, and then 5 games into basically his amounts to his rookie season he's going to the bench. I think I'd be surprised. And you're right, we don't know everything, especially with offensive line. There's so many intricacies to that position that is just impossible for us to pick up, even from like all 22 tape. We don't know exactly what their scheme is on a given play. We can say, okay, well, yeah, he got beat one-on-one, but we don't know exactly what's going on in the play. Even with that said, it just feels, I don't know, it feels like a rush decision if that's the way they go. They might be better with James Hurst right now, but I think this is a position group where you're still looking to the future with that, and I think you still want Trevor Penning to be your left tackle of the future. It just feels a little early for that call.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we tend to think of these guys as robots sometimes. Like they're just players that you plug in and it's like Madden, and you can, this guy's got a higher rating, so put him there. And if the Saints do make the move, what they'll do is move Andres Pete to left guard and have James Hurst play left tackle just like last year, just to be clear on that. But like this is a guy who, like Luke said, came from Northern Iowa. Rod, he's a first-round pick. In 2 years, two more seasons after this one, he'd be eligible for free agency. Left tackle is a very well-paid position. And so this is a big step back in his career if he loses a starting job.
Oh, without a doubt. I do think he's probably had to, having gone from Northern Iowa to the NFL, I think he's always had to prove himself. And I think, if he does have to take a seat and grow and develop, I think he can probably handle that. But I'm surprised by the move if they do it, just because I thought they ran the ball decently last week, and it just seems like I think Jeff would look one of them say that it's just kind of a really weird time to do it, I think. But I do think that Trevor Penning is a guy who, I mean, we thought it was improvement anyway. So, I mean, I think he can get better.
It's a little bit of a Rorschach test, right? Like if you're a fan and you think if you like this move, it means you kind of trust the coaching staff inherently. If you don't like this move, it means you don't trust him, because on the surface, from what we see, like we've all said, the timing is kind of funny.
Yeah, like I would say this makes them potentially better assignment-wise, like because of the veteran play that they would be replacing him with. But I'm not sure they're better physically. Trevor Penning's a physical force, especially as a run blocker. But I think they feel like they can live with it. And I think one other factor we might not be considering is we've asked every week, where are the tight ends in the offense? Where are the tight ends? Well, a lot of times they're staying in to help Trevor Penning block. They're using some help in the passing game to help him in pass protection. Maybe that's part of the reason, is they feel like they need to get back offensively to being explosive enough and having enough players out in the routes that they can't afford to have training wheels on their left tackle all the time in pass protection. That's the only other thing I think that could be a factor here. Well, we'll see if it plays out in this Texans game.
That's a good point. So keeping the focus on the Saints offense, Luke, Chris Olave limited in practice this week. He had a little bit of a toe issue from the game on Sunday, but we expect him to be a full go. I mean, the Saints skill players, including Derek Carr, looked really good, looked their best, I think, against New England.
Yeah, and Olave was actually upgraded on the injury report yesterday too. So, and look, this Houston defense I think is solid. I think they maybe rank in the top 15 in the NFL, so upper half of the NFL defense in scoring and in total defense. But they can be vulnerable. Atlanta's got a terrible passing offense, and they threw for 350 yards against them last week. So again, I want to see the Saints offense stack good days. I think it's possible against this unit. I think we can see Derek Carr take advantage of his skill position players because, outside of Derek Stingley, I don't know if Houston's got anybody on that secondary that I really think is a stud. And maybe we can see him, keep establishing this running game, keep getting more out of Alvin Kamara, keep expanding Kendre Miller's role, and maybe sort of inch closer to this offense that we all expect him to be because, again, they've got weapons. They've got a lot of weapons, and they've invested a lot into that offensive line. Even if you're taking a first-rounder out in Trevor Penning, you're putting a former first-rounder in Andres Pete. So they've got everything that you would possibly want them to have offensively. Stack it together now. And, I think we need to see a better game out of Olave. He's coming off of 2 down games by his own standards. I want to see Michael Thomas continue to kind of level up in this offense. I think last week was probably his best game since he's come back. And maybe they can get Rashid Shaheed involved again. It's been a couple of weeks since we've kind of seen him have that really big explosive play. I think they have all the opportunity in the world to do it this week, but they've got to seize that moment because this is an offense that hasn't done it consistently throughout the season.
Anything else on Saints offense, guys, that you're looking for?
I think for me the main thing is just, I think they're offensively. I think they match up well against the Texans. I just think they can't have all the penalties they had last week and put yourselves behind the chains, and they have to take care of the ball. Obviously, I know that's kind of football 101 anyway, but they can't give this Texans team short fields and all that kind of stuff because they'll take advantage of it.
And I do want to say I think Texans are number 30 or 29 or something like that in pressure rate or in sack rate. So this is a week where we got to see the Saints continue to hold out the protection for Derek Carr.
So it's a Sheldon Rankins revenge game too. Let's not leave that out.
My guy.
Sheldon Rankins
Honey
who
baked
went to
ham.
Louisville, by the way, Louisville grad. Now I would say
mac
Rod
and
made a good
cheese.
point about made a really good point about penalties. I mean, Luke and I talked to Pete Carmichael after the press conference yesterday about the use of motion and how they did add a little more to the mix in the game against the Patriots, but that also created a lot of the penalties. And he said, look, if we're going to do this, we can't have penalties every time we put a guy in motion. I mean, that's where most of the penalties occurred, was them trying to incorporate a little more motion in. So it'll be interesting to see if they dial it back or if they try to use more of it this week, feeling like they've had more time on task to get it down.
Yeah. You mentioned the Atlanta game. Desmond Ridder, I don't even think had anything near a 300-yard game in his career, and he goes for 359. So the opportunities will be there to move the ball. Now, having said that, the Falcons kind of struggled to score 21 points, so it was kind of bend but don't break on the Texans side. All right, moving on the Saints Insider podcast, brought to you by Bank Plus. We'll talk about when the Texans have the ball, and there is some injury news here. I believe Tank Dell, their top receiver, was ruled out with a concussion, so he will not play after suffering that concussion in Atlanta last week. Small break for the Saints. They've gotten some of those this year with key skill guys being out, but they're still going to have to deal with C.J. Stroud, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions, favorite to win offensive rookie of the year at this point. And you look on the Saints side of the thing, and it's just about kind of keeping that momentum from what was a brilliantly played defensive game.
Yeah, I think so. And look, I don't even think, to be fair to Tank Dell, who's off to a really great start in his rookie season, I think Nico Collins. Nico Collins is really the guy you got to worry about in their passing attack. So look, they've got weapons even without Tank Dell. Robert Woods is pretty good. Nico Collins, and then obviously just C.J. Stroud is playing out of his mind for a rookie quarterback in this offensive scheme. So it's not by any stretch. I think this is going to be their most difficult challenge of the season in terms of who they're facing, the offense they're facing, the weapons they have, the quarterback they have. So this, I think, is going to be a really good litmus test for the Saints defense. We've been talking all season. They're top 10 in everything right now. Can they keep it up against a better, higher level of competition? I think they're going to be fine against the run. Dameon Pierce, I don't think is really kind of found his footing in this new scheme that they brought in. He's kind of a little maybe miscast for that. I think they'll be okay against that. It's just a matter of can they force C.J. Stroud into making the mistakes that he hasn't made yet in his career.
Yeah, look, remember they played this team in the preseason, so they have a good beat on what they do. And I remember distinctly in that game, they got after the Texans up front. They really dominated their offensive line. So that's what if they can't run the ball, like Luke said, they're going to have a hard time. I don't care how good C.J. Stroud's playing, because this pass defense, and I'm writing about that for this weekend. I mean, they're playing at an elite level. The opposing quarterback rating on average is 66. By far the best in the league. I have trouble believing C.J. Stroud's going to light up this pass defense the way they play. This is by far the best defense he's played in his career, and I think they're going to disguise some things and get after him. And I think they're going to make life tough for him.
We talk about the Saints schedule. The Texans schedule has not been all that difficult either, but C.J. Stroud.
And they beat the Steelers, man.
As I said, the Texans schedule has not been that difficult. C.J. Stroud is, and we always talk about mobile quarterbacks giving the Saints trouble. He does not run for a ton of yardage. That's not his game. And it's worth noting, to your point, Dunk, that preseason game, the Texans were playing their starters for the first couple of series. And C.J. Stroud and the Texans starters did get one touchdown drive. I think it was on a real short field. It was like a 40-yard touchdown drive. The first time they got the ball, they got shut down, and then they pulled the starters after that. So that it's preseason, does only matter so much. But C.J. Stroud, even though he's not getting those rushing yards, he is able to move around the pocket, kind of like Derek Carr does, create some throwing lanes, extend plays, that sort of thing. And you talk to some Saints players who played against Stroud in college at Ohio State and came away very impressed.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing about him is just his ability to extend plays. I was looking at some of their numbers the other day, and I mean, they have like the third in the league in pass plays over 20 yards. And it's just because his ability to extend plays. I mean, he doesn't take off running, and like you said, but I mean, he just makes plays long. He's only been sacked. He hadn't been sacked in the last 3 games, so he's a guy that's just hard to get to. And we've seen the Saints over the years struggle with guys who can do that. And I think this could be one of those type games for them.
Yeah, CJ, 7 touchdowns, no picks. Alontae Taylor was asked about that this week and kind of had a little smile when he said, "We'll see if we can get the first pick." So do we think, like, let's go on the record here. Let's get some predictions. Did the Saints get that first pick of C.J. Stroud's career?
I do think they will get their first pick.
All right.
Saints have been a really good team taking away the ball this year, and I think this is built off of their pass rush, kind of working with their coverage on the back end, forcing some wobbly throws, very much like Mac Jones had last week for that pick 6. So yeah, I think the Saints pass rush is going to help out and get to C.J. Stroud a little bit and force him to make a throw that he wouldn't normally make. I'm with you.
I think we already know where Dunk's going.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you remember this is the team, and I'm sure some of our viewers will remember this. This is the team that Brian Brzee did that spin move on, and the offensive lineman ended up blowing his arm out on the spin move. And I think he got put on IR, if I remember correctly.
They've had a revolving door at offensive line. That's another thing the Texans have.
Yeah, look, I think there's room for improvement in the Saints pass rush a lot. Carl Granderson's playing at a very high level, but they could use some other guys. And I think they tapped into something this last game, is a subtle tweak in their third down package, their NASCAR package, using Tano Passignon inside, where they've been kind of using some other defensive tackles, Malcolm Roach. They've rotated some different guys in there, but Tano had his best game by far. I think he ended up with 5 pressures in that game. So we'll see if that continues on. I'm sure it will. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But I think getting more pressure will lead to turnovers, and that's something we saw last week. I mean, Mac Jones threw a couple of kind of Hail Marys into tight coverage. And C.J. Stroud, I think, is living on borrowed time. He's eventually going to throw a pick, and this is the week, I think, where they can do it. And look, the Saints have been healthy on defense. We know they get Marcus May back this week. So they're about as good a shape as you can get health-wise on the defense.
Really proud of you for nailing Passignon, by the way.
Yeah, it's a difficult word.
We don't really know the update yet on Cam Jordan. I assume he'll play because he never misses a game, but he has been limited this week in practice with dealing with some kind of back injury. So that's something to pay attention to as well.
He was like walking backward in the locker room. I think he's fine. He didn't look too ginger to me.
He's not going to miss, man. That guy, you can't keep him out.
He tried to play with a broken eye socket last year. You need to hide his helmet from him.
That's crazy. All right, Saints Insider Podcast is brought to you by Bank Plus. Again, I'd like you to hit the like button, subscribe to the Saints on NOLA.com YouTube channel, which is where this podcast will live starting next week. Still to be determined with the Thursday game next week. I think we're just going to do a Wednesday episode and then, of course, have the post-game show. But you can also check out the Saints Insider post-game show live from Houston on Sunday. So moving forward, just a quick touch on special teams, and then we'll get into our predictions, guys. Blake Grupe's becoming a weapon. He was NFC Special Teams Player of the Week, hit a 53-yarder and a 54-yarder. He's only missed 1 field goal, and that, of course, was the one that would have given them the lead against Green Bay. So that's the one thing kind of missing from Grupe's resume is can he hit that clutch kick?
Yeah, that's all I have left to see. I mean, the guy can hit the long kicks. I think we've seen he's accurate. He's 11-12 this season. That clutch element was so crucial to like who Will Lutz was with his team and what he did for the team. That I think we got to see that out of Grupe. I think he's got it. He's just got to show it.
he is a Notre Dame grad and did not adhere to your Louisville punishment.
Yeah, he ran from me in the locker room yesterday, but I'll get to him eventually. But no, Luke makes a great point. I think he's getting more confident too with each game. You can kind of see the way he addresses the ball, the way he carries himself, and I think kickoffs have been a little underrated. I mean, that's a big factor. The Saints are winning that field position battle decisively over their opponents. Lou Hedley probably is coming off his best game as a punter. We know Shaheed's a terrific return man. So I think this is a big advantage for the Saints in this game as special teams. And I think kicking indoors, they may have the roof open in this game. We'll see if that creates any effect. But I think they're solid. And if Darren Rizzi has to be pleased with how these two young guys that they kind of rolled the dice on have performed early on.
And a big special teams note, Lou Hedley cut his mullet off. So,
Oh.
Yeah.
I hope that's not like Samson. Like you cut the hair and you lose the power? Is that?
I don't know.
He's got the tats. He's still got all the tats.
Well, you can't undo all of those. You know?
Yeah, that would be
take
painful.
it would take him
He'd be
probably
on-
more
he'd be
than
on
his
IR
NFL
if he-
paycheck.
yeah.
Yeah, He'd be on IR.
Let's not do that. I think instead he should shave his head and get more tats. You got more skin space then if you do that.
He might.
So-
Who knows what's up under there?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe he does from a past life. One more note on special teams. The Saints, I think, are third from the bottom in the NFL in starting field position. And part of that is Rashid Shaheed. He'll take things out of the end zone. I think that's by design, right? I mean, like they're willing to give up 5 yards of field position to give Shaheed a shot at hitting a home run.
Yeah, I think so. But I know DA talked about it early in maybe after game 1 or 2, and they would like to start at least at 25. So, but I mean, when you have a guy like Rashid, that's kind of the chances you're taking with a guy who can hit the home run.
And just to be clear, that's starting field position after a kickoff. It's
Right.
not,
Right.
yeah, not just general field
Am I
position.
wrong? Didn't he fair caught one recently?
I think he did, didn't
Was
he?
it
Yeah,
the
he did.
Patriots game? He
Yeah.
finally did.
Yeah.
But and look, we've talked to Darren Rizzi about it. There haven't been very many teams around the league utilizing that. Most teams are returning, not fair catching. So we'll see if that changes going forward. But I'm with them. Let that guy return. I mean, that guy's special.
Yeah, team roll the dice on that. Like, who cares about 5 or 7 yards of field position? Like, really? What is that actually going to do for you? You got to trust your offense to go get that extra 5-7 yards. It's not going to like build up over the course of the game where your opponent's going to be starting on the Euro 40 every time. Like, give the explosive, fastest guy on the field as many chances, as many cracks at it to make a huge play, a game-changing play.
Well, and particularly, he hasn't busted one on a kickoff yet, just on a punt. But all it takes is one, and that statistic flips the other way around. Because now, he returns one for a touchdown or even one 50 yards into enemy territory, then that stat flips around. So, yeah, I'm with you guys. You give him a chance. It's kind of like the baseball player who's going to strike out a few times, but he's also going to hit a home run every week, and that's worth the chance.
You calling Rashid Shaheed Adam Dunn?
Kyle Schwarber.
There you go. Yeah.
Dave Kingman, going old school.
Which one of us is the oldest here?
Yep.
Dave Kingman.
Rob Deere.
Milwaukee guy. All right, prediction time here on the Saints Insider Podcast. Saints and Texans, noon on Sunday. Last week, I was the only one who picked against the Saints, and I was as wrong can be, 34-0. So this week, we'll see where we go. Luke, we'll start with you.
All right, I am picking the Saints to win. I think the score I picked was 24-21. Look, I like I've said throughout the show, I really like C.J. Stroud. I love the offense that Bobby Slowick is running there in Houston. I think it's going to be the biggest challenge the Saints face this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they give up 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns and a couple field goals. But I do think the Saints are going to have they're going to find enough plays on defense, and I like the trend the offense or the steps the offense took last week, and I really do think they have too much talent to play the way they did for the first 4 games of the season. Derek Carr's a little healthier. I think the Saints are going to score more points this week than we've been kind of counting on them to score throughout the season. So I feel confident about this one. I feel like the Saints are a better team, and they're going to go in there and get a win.
All right, I'm going to get real specific because I got to make up for last week. So I looked into the crystal ball. Saints are going to be trailing 19-13 late in the game.
Oh, my God.
Frustrating game. One of those situations where they missed a lot of chances and had it. Although I will say, not only will C.J. Stroud throw his first pick, but it is also going to be Alontae Taylor's first pick.
Wow.
That smile, there was a twinkle in his eye, man. I saw it. But it'll be 19-13, and then Derek Carr in his kind of adopted hometown will finally get the offense uncorked. Saints touchdown, Blake Groupie clutch extra point for the 20-19 victory.
Look,
Wow.
that will be if that all like comes to fruition, you are going to completely erase whatever happened last week.
That's right. I have to go out on a limb.
It's like that Dumb and Dumber moment where it's like just when I thought you couldn't be any dumber, you go and do this and totally redeem yourself.
I will have the moped across I-80 in Nebraska, man.
That's right.
If that all happens. And by the way, the Saints still wouldn't cover the spread. It's -1.5. So that I have another ATS loss for them in that prediction. All right, Rod, what you got?
When the schedule first came out, I thought this was probably like the most automatic win on the schedule. I just thought the Texans were really bad. I didn't know C.J. Stroud was going to. Well, when the schedule came out, did we even know who the quarterback was? I can't remember which comes out first.
It was pretty,
Schedule came out after the draft.
after the draft, so we had.
But anyway,
we could assume,
I figured a rookie quarterback, and this was just an easy win. But I've changed my mind over the past couple of days. I kind of went back and forth on this one, but I just feel like that. I think that New England game may have given us probably more belief in the Saints offense than we probably should have. I don't know if they're really as good as they looked Sunday. So anyway, I'm picking the Texans at home, 23-20. And since this game was in the Superdome, I would have picked the Saints, but I'm just giving them a slight edge at home.
It does feel like this could definitely be the week where the Saints, again, you get that false sense of security, and they turn around, and we still don't know what this team is. But Dunk, you wrap it up. You don't think that's going to happen?
Well, I like that Rod going out on a limb. I do always cheer for someone that's outside the box, but I just think the Saints found themselves last week, and I think the Texans are a little bit fraudulent, and I think they're going to expose in this game when they finally play a really good defense, and I think they get after Stroud. Like I said, I think they're going to roll. I mean, I think they're going to win double digits. I don't think the Texans are going to be able to move the ball consistently in this game at all. And this is not like they're going into a house of horrors. I mean, Saints fans will have a ton of fans there. Houston's is what it is. It's a transient town, concrete jungle. They're going to go in there and own these guys and come back home with a 2-game win. And they need to start stacking. This is a good opportunity. They come back with a short week, play the Jaguars in the Dome on Thursday night, and they need to get back to playing good at home. They played actually their best games on the road for the most part this year and the last year. So we'll see if we're having the same narrative next week when we're doing a podcast talking about a home game.
3 straight AFC games. They had New England, or 3 more, right? Houston, Jacksonville, and Indianapolis is the second of 4 straight AFC games. And then the second half of the schedule is those important conference games and division games. But the Saints in a spot where they could really set themselves up well this week.
Yeah. We'll see though. We'll see.
Yeah.
And they have the Bears after the
Jaguars.
After the Jags.
Well, they got the Colts first and then the Bears.
I mean, it's just the schedule's set up nicely for them.
The resurgent Chicago Bears, Justin Fields putting up huge yards, huge numbers.
Well, we'll say this. If Rod is in fact right and the Texans do win, we may have to have an emergency podcast because Saints fans will be apoplectic.
We'll be driving back from Houston, but we'll do something Monday if the Saints, if it gets ugly. If it's happy, we'll let all of you bask in the glory of that victory. All right, the Saints Insider Podcast brought to you by Bank Plus, as always, on this Friday the 13th, so something weird is bound to happen. We'll see what it is on Sunday. We will be there for the Saints Insider post-game show at 20 or 30 minutes after the end of the game. Get visits from these guys from the locker room. Luke and Rod will be there. Until then, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time on the Saints Insider Podcast. For Rod, Luke, and Jeff, and Amelia Cotton, and Norman Bell, right? I almost called you Norman Powell. Norman Bell behind the glass. I'm Zach Ewing. Thanks for watching.